Hello and welcome back to Worth the War. My name is Kimmy, and this podcast is to spare hearts by rethinking our approach to love. Our podcasts are going to be short and sweet and hopefully very helpful so that you can spare your own heart and the hearts of the ones that you love or those who will be following us. We've done a dismal job of preparing generations on how to recognize healthy love versus what I call dark hearts, people who would rather wound us than love us. So here we're going to talk today about how to actually put in line the fundamentals that will give people the greatest chance of being able to avoid and recognize unhealthy relationships and people. And the fuel and the thing that drives this entire podcast is the beautiful wisdom of survivors, people who have encountered the worst of the worst, the person who should love us, who ended up wounding us, and learning from them. And let's take our time to really be able to give them the honor that they deserve. Survivors really are our best shot and our best source to protect the next generation and protect ourselves along the way. So what we're going to do is cover in practicality the things that leave us at risk for unhealthy or dark hearts. And then we're going to talk about some of the protective factors that we can put in place for ourselves and people we love to help them to avoid unhealthy relationships. So like I said, this is going to be short and sweet because I will try to keep mine that way so you can pop in and get content that will help you. So our things that we have to be thinking about in terms of what makes us at risk for an unhealthy or dark heart. One of them is going to be our age. The younger we are, the less prepared we are, the more malleable we are to people who would rather wound us than love us. Another thing would be a very low academic achievement level. In other words, we are not feeling confident about what it is we know, and we can be snowed pretty easily. Sadly, a good number of the people who would rather wound us than love us aren't the brightest bulbs either. And to get us at a time when we're going to be pretty gullible is a great win for them. Obviously, this one doesn't need an introduction. Low self-esteem is the wide open door to people who will try to make you feel that you should put up with things that you should never put up with. Another one that you don't control as readily would be a low income. The people who feel they have less resources are often willing to put up with more. And that is why we find over and over, if we think about Jeffrey Epstein, and numerous other people who were serial abusers, what did they prey on? People who were young and vulnerable, financially, emotionally, and when it came to their own ability to understand their own value. Another thing would be depression. People who are going through mental health struggles, they are going to be much easier to manipulate into breadcrumb into thinking that they are loved, only to find later that they were just being groomed. Heavy drug and alcohol use is always going to leave us open to so many dark hearts because we just have less control over what it is we are accepting of. Emotional dependence and insecurity, being a codependent, being so reliant upon somebody else for your own well-being and stability. A strong line and lineage toward acceptance of aggression and dominance in a relationship. The ability to accept psychological aggression, to actually find that it's sexy. I'm never afraid to step out and say a lot of the things that people are experiencing, especially young people online when it comes to pornography. A lot of that is aggression and dominance. A lot of it's non-consensual. I don't think we can be sticking our heads in the sand thinking that we're not going to have a fallout from that. When people are trained on a certain kind of system, which is in this case non-consensual and aggressive, it's going to be real hard to switch that around later. Anyone who was parented in an abusive manner or had experience with abuse or confusing discipline with love, actually abusive discipline with love, these kinds of people are going to be at a much higher rate of vulnerability to abusive or dark hearts. But let's turn it over now. Those things are pretty obvious, right? But let's turn it over and let's look at what are the kinds of things, and I'm sorry, my chair is very creaky today, so I apologize. What are the things that we can do that would give ourselves and the people we love and the next generation a better shot at closing those doors of vulnerability? Let's get some really practical things that we could start today. One of them is that we need to really look at who is our peer group, who is our children's peer group, who are our friends. There was once somebody who said something that was so amazing, was when they said, when you feel like you're consistently defending yourself or proving your worth, it's time to get a new circle. Now, it's harder when you're younger. Arguably, one of the hardest times to get a new circle is when you're in school. And I experienced that watching my kids grow up. If you're in a small school, if you're in a school that's very limited in its ability to kind of switch groups, it's really hard to get yourself out of a toxic group. But if you, on the other hand, are somewhere where you have more control, if you're finding yourself not sure of your worth, look at your circle. Make sure that they're healthy for you. Make sure that you find yourself in a stable environment, that you have a place to lay your head at night, that you know that you will have food and the other things. Fight for those kinds of stable foundations because they are protective when it comes to unhealthy relationships. Understanding strong social supports, whether it's with individuals in your neighborhood, if it's organizational, if it's legal, there are social supports that can give you both information and a safe place. Know about them, learn about them before you ever even enter out into dating and love and relationship. Because the worst thing that happens is you find yourself involved with a dark heart and you have no way out because there is no place to go. Well, a lot of this stuff moves you to that before you get in that situation. Really working on your self-worth, your self-image, your self-esteem. I know that sounds like a book, but the reality is you have to take stock of what it is about you that is unique and special and worthy. Every single human being has it. You're born with it, you don't earn it, and you cannot lose it. Focusing on those things will help you to identify when somebody blows past them and has no recognition that they exist. Having really good, articulate, honed conflict resolution skills. This one cannot be overlooked. If you don't know how to speak up when people are being unfair, unkind, biased, you name it, then you're probably not going to be able to dig yourself out of holes as quickly as you should. If you have to, look online, do a Google search. There's lots of really practical ways that you can learn to deal with people in a conflict that are not dangerous, they're not over the top, and they don't require thousands of dollars to get some kind of articulate training. You just need to know how to respond to people who deserve to be put in place with boundaries. Understanding your attitude and how much power it has over what you will accept and who it is that is drawn to you. Some of us, I get it. There's toxic positivity that's out there, and we are not talking about that. We're not talking about pretending everything's fine when it's not. We're not talking about looking at the rosy side of life when you really need to mourn it or work through it. But what we're talking about is your attitude, your values, your beliefs, the things that you hold dear. If these things are held in a positive way, you are much more likely to recognize when someone is trying to bring negativity and chaos to your world. One of the best examples I can think of that really gives us a fighting chance of dealing with and recognizing a dark heart when they enter into our circle is spending enough time at peace with yourself and your life to be able to recognize when somebody starts to make waves. It is absolutely important to be able to know what it feels like to breathe and rest and lean into your knowledge of what is good, your knowledge of what you are worthy of. These kinds of things, they come into our lives, and they are like breaths of fresh air. If you have never experienced that period of peace, do not connect to other people until you can say you have. We do not recognize chaos until we fully understand peace. Another really important thing is to have positive role models. If you can't find them in your family, which of course would be heartbreaking, but if you can't, can you find them at school? Can you find them in a job, and a neighbor, and a place of worship, and a place that you volunteer? Look at people who inspire you to be better and hold them as a coach or a mentor. And don't be afraid to ask them to help you. If you have nobody else to go to, asking a few people if they'd be willing to mentor you, just spend some time giving you clarity and feeding into the things that you're thinking about. That's a really healthy way to move forward into life with a protective layer against people who want to bring chaos to your life. Having success in your life will also help you to close the door on people who would bring pain and suffering into the world for you. It is a great thing to know that you can succeed, that you can provide for yourself, that you are strong. And once you know that, you're much less likely to accept someone who tells you you're not. The last thing that I'm going to say is that there is a strong connection between our parenting experience, who parented us, what they told us was valuable, and what it is that we're willing to accept. If you have to be honest with yourself and admit that the examples you were given were not healthy, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it is absolutely important to step back and ask yourself, how can I reparent and get myself to the point where I look at my life as something to experience, to journey through, and to succeed at, instead of the consistent chain of disappointment that I was told and lied to that it is, and that I am. These are protective ways that you can actually move yourself toward a position of power when it comes to abusive people, when it comes to dark hearts. Taking the time to understand where your risks were. If you've already experienced a dark heart and abusive situation, you know what I'm talking about. And you know that the only way to get out is to overcome the things that got us there to begin with. So understanding our value, understanding the way we look at the challenges in our life, understanding that we recognize peace so that we can protect it. These are basic fundamental principles of being able to identify, reject, and aggressively set boundaries on people who would rather wound us than love us. I hope this has been short and sweet and powerful, and that it gives you some tools to work with the people that you love to make sure that you, along with the rest of us at WorththeWar, are ready to spare hearts. I'll look forward to talking to you in about a week and a half when I get back from vacation. You take good care. Bye-bye.